Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Train to Busan presents Peninsula. Alright, cast and crew information down below. And let's start off with this IMDb plot. Not much here, but it says a zombie virus has in the last 4 years spread to all South Korea. 4 Koreans in Hong Kong sailed through the blockade to Incheon for $20 million on a truck. Alright, not much said there, but let's take it from the top. First, curiosity, which is the title alone. I don't understand why it has to be Train to Busan presents. That's weird. I don't know. I don't know. That was just weird. I don't know why they didn't just put Train to Busan 2 or just Peninsula, or I guess just Peninsula in a way would be weird. You might not know what it is, but just the whole presents. I don't know. It doesn't really make it seem like a sequel, even though it is a sequel. Um, so with that said, I just had to get that off my chest. With that said, I think it's fair to say Train to Busan was one of the most popular horror zombie movies for quite a while. Yeah, it quickly went right to the top. I haven't seen too many negative reviews. I haven't seen too many horror fans say they didn't like it. Just an amazing, amazing movie. I, of course, was one of the. I feel like I was one of the last people to see it. Um, while I try to be up on things, it just seemed like this one um, got away from me, and I never got a chance to see it until more recently. Um, and I did a video review for that. And now I'm here doing part two, and I've been waiting for this one. And I guess we'll see what my final thoughts are on that. But I think coming into this, they had high bar to set or high bar to reach, just because of so many fans like the original, and there's really no shame with a sequel not being as good as the original. Um, it's hard to find a lot of sequels that are. I'm sure there are plenty out there that fans might point out here and there. But on a large scale, I think most originals um, are where everything begins, and it's hard to beat. So with that said, let's kind of dive into this one here. And what you have here is it kind of starts. I'm gonna try to be as spoiler free as possible, but I mean it's a zombie film, and you kind of know the direction here. Um, it follows basically a soldier character here, and he's trying to, in the midst of the chaos that originally started, and I'm assuming it's the first movie, trying to get like some of his family away, and in the process it doesn't work out well for him. He survives, but let's just say his family and friends didn't. And now it is 4 years later, and they've made it out, but life isn't great. There's not a lot going on, and I think he's still a bit traumatized by the events and taken by that of what happened. And he, along with a couple of his buddies here, are then presented an opportunity to kind of go back into where all this zombie craziness started, and bring back some money. These people know that there's a stash of cash in this truck, and they convince them, or they tell them, give them the opportunity to go back in there and get this truck and have this and get this money, and promise them a cut of it, of course. And seems like a strange thing, and then as you see this play out, there's a little debate about, obviously there's some interest in the money, but there's a debate about the usefulness of this money, considering the everything that's happened. And I guess it seems to mean more to some people than others. I think if you had that opportunity now in a regular circumstance, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's $20 million. But in the middle of this zombie apocalypse, might be a little bit different story. Um, so this guy here, he's not totally interested in it, but he just kind of goes along with it. He's kind of gets goaded by his friends. He's more doing it for his friends than anything. Um, so he obviously has a lot of military experience, and some of his friends have maybe a little fighting experience and so forth. But they go with a plan, and then they head out, and they have a couple of satellite phones with them, which they're supposed to radio back once they've found the money. Um, so obviously, what they're heading into is not only an area that's still infested with zombies, um, but also some people that are still living in this area here, and have found ways to survive with the zombies still there. But obviously, it's a different world. It's not the normal world anymore. Um, think of it in terms of some of the apocalyptic movies you've seen, where you're basically creating your own societies and so forth, good and bad, and that kind of stuff. Um, so they do eventually make it to the truck, but let's just say it wasn't a whole smooth operation. Zombies get involved, and things go wrong, and that's when we also meet some of these people that are still alive in this zone, and you kind of get introduced to how they're living now and what's going on there, and their dynamic, and then you have the guy here who's the hero of the story here. I think his name is Jung. Um, he kind of gets separated from the group, and he ends up with a different set of people, and then you're going to kind of see how those people kind of cross paths with the other people there, and you're going to see the money. I don't want to go all through this, leave some stuff for you guys to see, but you're going to kind of see the two sets of call it the good and the bad people that are still living there, and you're going to see the money come into fold. Is you're going to see the satellite phones be of importance, and you're going to see some people that basically want out. Obviously, Jung and his friends want out. I mean, they weren't living there to begin with, but so they want back out, and then people that are living there want out because they basically just kind of got stuck there once the zombies kind of overran things. And I'll leave the story-wise at that, and kind of see how those events come together and play out. As I guess the only way to go with this is to kind of compare some of the stuff they did in the first one with this one, and one of the things is I think, and I don't usually go for these kind of things, but I think it was hard to miss, and it was hard not to kind of get sucked up in the first one, was the emotional side of the story. You had a father figure who was kind of trying to figure out the best way to be a father, but was obviously more concerned, or very concerned, with his business dealings and so forth, while trying to be a part of his little girl's life, and then found himself in a situation where he had to fight for his little girl's life, and obviously we see him go to great lengths to keep her alive, and then you kind of also get another story of a couple there, and a woman who's pregnant, and the need to kind of keep her alive because she is going to give birth. So you kind of see the emotional side of that, on top of obviously what us horror fans come to see is all the zombiness and then the killings and that kind of stuff. But I think one of the things that mentioned in a lot of things I read for Train to Busan was that side of the story, and people really like that, or really you couldn't avoid that. Um, so I think in this one here, um, you know, Jung has his story, and it's a little heartbreaking, and you kind of see that at the beginning of the movie. But because it happens so quick, and you don't really know who they are at the set, and you have no, you don't spend a lot of time with them, so you don't really get that attachment. Um, you feel sorry for him, only to a point. And I think as the movie goes on, um, I'm not even sure. You can see that he's still pulling from some of those emotions, and he's traumatized by those events. And obviously, they're going to play a role in what happens and what he does later on. But I don't know that he ever becomes maybe that character that you're rooting for, kind of like you were rooting for the father. You may have hated the father at the start of Train to Busan, but I think by the end, you were really rooting for him, and really proud of the journey that he took in that movie, and what he did for his daughter. And I don't think Jung kind of does that at any point in this movie. I think they try to sprinkle it in and try to get it there, but it's just not the same. And then there is a family that he meets. Like I said, there's some good people there and there's some bad people there. There's a family he meets, and he kind of gets involved with them. And I think that is where the movie really tries to bring in that emotional tie, as they did in the first movie. But I think because the movie's not centered on them, and because they come in a little bit later on, yeah, there's two younger girls. Not as I don't think they're as little as the girl in the first movie, but there are two younger girls here. So you can kind of root for them, and they're pretty cool girls here. They do some cool stuff here, so they're likable characters. But I don't think you're gonna get attached to them kind of the same way you got attached to the little girl in the first movie. And the way the events play out, I don't know. It just almost seemed like it was a little bit more forced and maybe natural in the first movie. And there, I think when you watch this, I don't want to spoil things, and I want to leave you guys with some stuff to see. I don't want to tell you everything that happens here. But I think later on in the movie, when you're going to see towards the final major scene of this movie, you're going to see moments here where I think it's very clear that they're pushing the emotional stuff at you. They're like, okay, this is our moment. We want to do the same emotional stuff we did in the first movie. Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. And maybe it is as a partly because you saw the first one, and you know what happened. That kind of maybe taints, or at least me, kind of taints me in seeing this as seeing it almost as forced, where maybe if I was watching this movie standalone and never had seen the first one, maybe not expecting it, or not bringing that connection, maybe it would have looked differently. But it just seemed like they were doing it because, hey, we did this in the first movie, and it worked, so let's do it again here. But it just seemed more forced this time, and I think because you didn't follow those characters from the beginning, you follow them from a little bit later on, it's not the same. So that's a big difference there. Then obviously everybody wants to talk about the zombies, and just an incredible job they did in the first movie, and just some freaky stuff, and the way they make their zombies move. And I know kind of after I watched Train to Busan, I went on and I watched several other Korean films with, I think, like Kingdom and some of the other stuff on either Netflix or Amazon that had zombies in it, and saw the way they did their zombies, and they do their zombies in such a different way than you see maybe on, like, say, The Walking Dead here, or maybe your average zombie movie here. They just do them in a way in which they move, and they kind of spring up, and obviously there's that nighttime daytime thing, and their movement, and when they're kind of active and not. it's just really freaky stuff, and it's really good stuff. And it just, I don't know, I'd have to maybe watch the movies maybe kind of back to back to make a fair comparison. But for whatever reason in this movie, it didn't seem like we got as much zombie action, or at least as good of zombie action as we did in the first movie. And I don't know why. I don't know if that's accurate. Maybe it was just maybe me wanting more than they gave us. You'd have figured that maybe they made some money or some popularity out of the first one, so maybe they could do bigger and better things in the second movie, but it just didn't seem like it. You seem like you got like I mentioned, there's a scene in the beginning, and then there's a gap, and then you have them when they kind of get there, and they find the truck, and then there's a zombie scene. Then there's an interesting thing I guess they do. Like I said, when you find the bad people here, the bad people do something interesting with the zombies, and you see maybe a glimpse of something that happened in the first movie, as far as the zombies. Again, I don't want to give it away, but you kind of get that, and you get that I think maybe twice, so it's almost like they're repeating it, so that doesn't really do much. And then you get some action towards the end, but it just seems like there's just more human versus human in this movie, and then as opposed to human versus zombies, and I guess that's the best way to say it. You get it in pieces, where I think in the in the original movie, it's just it's obviously a lot of people versus zombies, and you get to see a lot of people going against the zombies, and different people going against the zombies, and even different areas of the train and what happens. There is a little infighting between the people, but it's not. It's not the overall focus. They had just one really true bad guy on the train, and maybe he influenced some others, but it was really just him. And where in this movie, it's more of people versus people, as opposed to getting the zombies in the mix. They're more of a on the side kind of thing. So that was a little bit disappointing. Like I said, there was maybe one kind of instance where they do something that kind of brought back to the original movie. But overall, I don't think they break the bank or do anything amazing, and that is a little bit disappointing to kind of see. You wish they would have done bigger and did better, but it is what it is. So again, it happens sometimes where they do a sequel and it's just for the money or because of the name and whatever, and they knew they could just want to make the money off of what they accomplished the first time. Does that mean they'll do a third part? They might do a third part. I'm sure there's a lot of interest. This movie eventually ends up on Shudder, so obviously, everybody knows that people want to see it. So, would it be shocking not to see a third part? No. When they do a third one, great, but I think they would need to kind of get back to the heart here and get back to the focus being on the zombies and not so much people, and keep them in the fold, because that's really what made the original so interesting and so great. So with that, I think that, did it meet it? It had high expectations, like I said, and did it meet those? Probably not. So I'm going to give it 3 pools of blood. Just kind of, set the bar there, and if they do a third part, kind of see which way it goes from there. But high expectations, and it probably didn't meet those expectations. But still had enough good in it. And is it a complete? Did you have to see the first one to see this one? Probably not. You kind of get the background of the story, and you can roll with it. So yeah, 3 pools of blood out of 5 for this one, and I'll leave it at that. So as usual, horrorgoyreviews.blogspot.com is where you can find more reviews, both the written and video reviews. Twitter, Facebook information also down below. Feel free to reach out there and subscribe to the channel. And feel free to comment as well. We can talk about this movie and other movies, whatever you want. And with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.